Alright guys, in today's video we are once again going to be discussing the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Project Scarlett, and we're going to be going over the persistent rumor that just doesn't seem to be going away. It continually pops up every couple of months, and I find it incredibly interesting that it hasn't changed at this point, and it has remained pretty consistent. And that rumor is that the PlayStation 5 is more powerful or is better performing than Microsoft's Project Scarlett. Now, this comes from somebody that we've talked about before, and they're once again reiterating that this is still the case, but it is also still subject to change. So let's read a little bit here, and then we'll talk about it. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlett are still in the works, with many details still to be finalized. Developers have received development kits for a good while now, and it seems like the Sony console is currently ahead in terms of performance. Reset Era Forums member Klee Game Fan, who has revealed interesting stuff regarding the next-gen consoles these past few weeks, recently revealed that the PlayStation 5 is ahead of the Xbox Scarlett in terms of game performance. He also notes that this could have to do with the fact that the PlayStation 5 development hardware and software are in a more advanced state. The same user later confirmed that this is based on dev kit performance. So this is exactly what he had to say. Right now, game performance is better on PS5. I believe that is probably because PS5 development hardware and software are in a more advanced state. I fully expect Scarlett to close the gap once they ship more mature dev kits and software. It must be said, since software, not hardware, is a traditional Microsoft area of expertise, it's very possible that they could ultimately deliver more advanced DirectX development software, in the end allowing games to run better on Scarlett even if the hardware is less capable. Console specs are likely finalized at this point, so it will be interesting to see if the gap will be reduced. If it will be, it will likely be thanks to software, as Klee Game Fan himself noted. So some very, very interesting information here if true. The thing I want to point out here is this. The chances of these console specs being finalized at this point, yeah, it seems like they most likely are. So what that essentially means is that if Microsoft doesn't find a way to close the gap with some type of software, then the PlayStation 5 will ultimately end up being the potentially more powerful or better performing console. Now, what makes this incredibly interesting, again, is the fact that this rumor has continued to persist. Not just from this individual Klee Game Fan, who, for anybody who's wondering, this is the same person who talked about their behind closed doors demo of a game they saw in very early development on PlayStation 5. He's been confirmed by other prominent members on Reset Era to be an insider, and he's legitimate, and people have backed him up. So I wouldn't worry about the source not being credible here. But this is just so interesting because it really is starting to seem that come, holiday 2020, when these consoles launch, we are going to be in a situation once again where the PlayStation console is going to be the more capable console. And the reason why this is so strange to me is because I don't understand how Microsoft could allow this to happen again. The thing is, I do not think it will be that big of a deal at the end of the day. I've said this many times before, and I will continue to say it until I'm proven wrong. I believe the difference and the gap between the consoles will be very, very slim. It's going to be negligible, really. But there is one very important factor here that we do need to pay attention to, something that I think if you really kind of take a bigger picture view of this, it all kind of makes sense. You have to ask yourself, why would Microsoft be okay, or how could they allow this to happen again, right? I mean, there have been Xbox fans who have told us that Phil Spencer and company will never allow themselves to be beat in the hardware space again, and maybe that's true. We don't know if this is going to be true or not, but if it were to be true, well, then at that point you have to ask, why did this happen? We've been talking for a while here on this channel about the difference between Sony and Microsoft and their approach to traditional console gaming. It's no secret that Microsoft simply just doesn't have the same faith in console gaming or the same push towards it that they used to. It's not their main priority. Microsoft is focused on other areas. Whereas if you look at Sony, especially with the recent interview with Jim Ryan that he gave with GamesIndustry.biz, he made it abundantly clear that they still very much prioritize the console, and that is where the bulk of their resources are going to. I mean, the guy said that they want to transition PlayStation 4 players to the PS5 at the fastest possible rate, faster than any other generation, and there's only one way they're going to be able to do that, and that is if they put their full force and energy and resources behind the console that is going to be the PlayStation 5. Microsoft isn't going to do that. It's great that they're still going to support the console space. I'm glad they're still making a console, and that, they're going to obviously push to sell it as well. But I think that they're completely okay with the idea of, like, you know what, maybe we won't be the world's most powerful console. But you also have to think about the marketing side of this, right? Another reason why Sony may be pushing for this much harder than Microsoft is because since Sony is banking so much on the console and they're still putting so much faith into it, and they still see that as their way forward, as their bread and butter when it comes to the PlayStation business, they want to ensure that they have the ability to market the PlayStation 5, even if it is just by 5% or 2% or 10%, it doesn't matter. They want to have the marketing ability to be able to say, we have the world's fastest console, we have the world's most powerful console. It won't matter if the difference is negligible. It will not matter what that difference gap actually is. It doesn't matter how small it may be. They're going to take advantage of that. And that's why I do believe this. That's why I do think that in the end, Sony may do something, whatever they have to do, essentially, to make sure that Microsoft isn't going to have that marketing beat over them, because believe it or not, that is very important to these console manufacturers going into next generation, going into next year. That is going to be a huge thing. Now, I think the focus is mainly going to be on performance this time around, not necessarily power. I don't necessarily think you're going to see Sony or Microsoft, whoever ends up having it, touting we have the most powerful console. I think it's all going to be about speed. We actually might talk about this a little bit more because Jason Schreier from Kotaku actually he revealed something about PlayStation 5's marketing that he must know about, that this is essentially what they're going to be doing. They're going to be focusing on the speed aspect, the immediacy, and just how quickly and how efficiently the PlayStation 5 is going to be able to run games. But there you go, guys. More information coming from an insider confirming, even at this point going into 2020, that the PS5 is apparently currently outperforming based on dev kits. We do have to highlight that. These are just dev kits. They are subject to change. But at this point in time, it's unlikely there's going to be any dramatic change. At this point in time, the PlayStation 5 is outperforming. It specifically talks about performance here, too, which is interesting. It's not talking about power. It's talking about performance. So there you go. This is a rumor that has continued to persist, and I will continue to highlight it because, to me, it's just a little bit, I don't want to say surprising, but it's just strange to me to think that after all this time, it's funny how the pendulum swings. At the beginning of this generation, Sony was so focused on the PlayStation 4 and 1080p gaming, and they really utilized that and marketed that, and it worked well for them. And then the pendulum ended up swinging in the other way with Microsoft with the Xbox One X, and they leaned in really hard on, the world's most powerful console. And, I believe, like I said, a lot of Xbox fans were like, they're never going to be beat on performance or power again. And now it seems that if this is to be believed, if everything we've been hearing these past couple of months is to be believed, and it does stay this way, the pendulum is swinging back once again to PlayStation, and I'm excited for that. As a PlayStation fan, as somebody who is very, very excited for the PlayStation 5, nothing would make me more happier than to see them end up having the more powerful console. Frankly, I think they deserve it. I just have to be honest here. For the company that is going to put more of an emphasis and just more resources and put more of their eggs in the basket that is console gaming, they deserve it. They should have it. You know what I mean? If Microsoft wants to focus on other areas and that really they want that to be what their priority is, and the console is just a part of that, then that's great. Project Scarlett will be an amazing console as well, but I just think that Sony, they're going to work hard to make sure that they end up having the better performing console, the more powerful console. But maybe they won't. Again, we do have to focus on the fact here that they did emphasize that Microsoft, and we know this, is a software company, and they may be using some type of special software to essentially bridge the gap, or maybe even potentially make Scarlett more powerful because of that, but I don't necessarily think that's likely. It's also worth noting, and it is interesting, and this is the last thing I'm going to say because the video is starting to drag out a little bit here. It's interesting to note that PlayStation 5 currently, according to this individual, Klee Game Fan, is further along in development of both hardware and software. So, any rumors that there may have been about, things not being on track or on pace for Sony. Clearly, that's just not the case at all. It seems like they may even be ahead of schedule, which is a great thing. So that's going to do it for the video, guys. I'm going to be interested to see what you guys have to say. What do you think about this information? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? Are you surprised? How do you think it's all going to play out and go down come next year? I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Leave the video a like if you did enjoy it or found it informative. Really helps it out. Lets me know you guys enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.